when it comes to the cost of a project, somebody's coming to J&RS to build with us, and they've got their contract signed and they're ready to go. Can you talk a little bit about, once you kind of present them the estimate or the budget that we're working with, where do those costs come from? And break down for me a little bit, kind of where you see the benefit and value of those costs.
So right off the bat, anytime you think of a construction project, I think I've touched on this in a prior, maybe the first podcast, about how in general we're looking at roughly, like for construction by a general contractor who does a fair amount of the work like we do, starting right at the foundation, doing all the footing and all the work to get it through the slab and up through the framing, building shell, standing, and then all the carpentry that goes into it. We are what you would say a very labor-intensive builder compared to some other builders who are probably doing maybe only half as much as what we're doing in terms of the actual construction. Many of them sub out the foundations and sub out things like drywall. And we have our own folks in-house that are doing that. So that represents roughly a third of the project right there, the labor.
Mm-hmm. And we've got that a lot of that's in-house. And so it makes things a little more efficient too, probably, and the cost of those things.
It does, because we're able to be very cognizant of how we've bid and to keep on task and keeping our productivity at the level to hit that number day in and day out, because we've been doing it for a while, 25 plus years. And that 1/3 that I say is of the total project is very subject to this specific design of the house. So 1/3 of it being labor, 1/3 of it being material, 1/3 of it being other, like subs. And that could be a plumber, electrician, heating contractor. In our case, we don't do the siding. We sub that out typically. We do the roofing most of the time, unless it's a specialty metal roof. So these things are a little bit fluid. You could be slightly off 1/3 one way or the other for any one of these three components. So if you take $300,000 build, which is a very entry-level build in this day and age, but I like the number 3, it's easy to work with. $100,000 for labor, $100,000 for materials, $100,000 for subs. Pretty basic house. We're probably talking about a 2-bedroom shop home scenario. Like you could convert it to your garage later after you build your home next to it in the future. That 1/3 that is the labor is, our cost to send our field crew out and sustain our business, essentially to cover our costs that aren't directly attributed to the labor. The other component, subs and materials, we take our costs and we pass through that cost, which we're able to get better pricing on many of the products. Like, for instance, cabinets now, we're able to get at a much better price as a dealer. And then the 10% that we charge over and above for our subcontractors and our materials is our cost of doing business. And so the only thing that could really change a whole lot if you compared, say, a homeowner doing his own project is the fact that the labor would no longer apply because you're doing the work yourself. So you're not paying yourself, supposedly. So you're gaining what I call sweat equity. So if you take that cost of the construction down $100,000 and look at that last $200,000, can you buy the materials and hire the subs for $200,000 compared to what we are able to? Probably not, because we have a relationship with these people and these vendors, and we buy at wholesale rates. So you might still be spending $240,000 to $250,000 on the same services and materials that I'm talking about. So you've lost maybe, on the order of 20% just because you're not able to buy like a contractor can buy. Right. And so those are factors too. So now what does $100,000 represent on this $300,000 build? I'm just pulling, like I said, this number out because it's easy to work with.